It's like, don't look at it. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, yes, it is. I don't know whether. Well, it's that. Yeah. We're down the one.
Right on the roads. Well, I've already asked if it can be fixed, and they're like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, I need. These are yours. Okay, I'm good.
Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of Westminster Mayor and Common Council. Council meets here at City Hall the second and fourth Mondays of every month. Please note that council meetings, although open to the public here at City Hall, are also available and streamed live on the city's YouTube page, as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. Now we'll begin to do every meeting with the pledge to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As a courtesy to everyone, please take a moment to silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices that might ring or beep or otherwise disturb the meeting. Copies of tonight's agenda and the entire information packet that the council will be using are available online on the city's website and available in hard copy, the agenda anyway, here in the front of the room. Please note we have Commissioner Tom Gordon with us again. Commissioner, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for coming tonight. Thank you. We also have former Mayor Joe Domingue. Mr. Mayor, always a pleasure to see you here as well. Begin the meeting with some presentations. The first is the announcement of the candidates for Common Council. Our city clerk, Mr. Barber, will now report on the candidates who have filed for seats for the Common Council for the 2023 election. Mr. Barber.
Okay, thanks, sir. The filing for the city of Westminster Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 general election is now closed. Candidates for the 2023 general election are as follows: Kevin Earl Dayhoff, Ann Gilbert, Greg Pecoraro, Scott Willis. Please note the City of Westminster Board of Elections has formally certified all the listed above candidates for the office.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. All right. Next, we have a mayoral proclamation. Dr. Becker.
All right, thank you. All right, so the mayoral proclamation tonight is in recognition of Public Service Recognition Week. So I would ask our city administrator, Ms. Impulse, to please come forward. Don't worry, you don't have to take it. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public service employees at the federal, state, county, and municipal levels, and the actions of these public service employees enhance the quality of life in jurisdictions across the nation. And the city of Westminster is served by many dedicated public service employees providing a variety of services to the community. And the services performed by these employees include general administration, housing and code enforcement, human resources, information technology, public safety, public works, and recreation and parks. And the mayor and common council wish to recognize the work performed by city employees and those public employees employed by other levels of government. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Mona Becker, mayor of the city of Westminster, on behalf of the common council, do hereby proclaim that May 7th through the 13th, 2023 is hereby declared as Public Service Recognition Week in the city of Westminster. And be it further proclaimed that all residents are encouraged to join the mayor and common council in celebrating the accomplishment and contributions of government employees at all levels. Thank you. You want to take a picture?
Sure. We'll have a
Sorry, you can't go anywhere. Ready?
Okay, thank you.
Give it to us.
All right, thank you, Mayor Becker. And now we will move on to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the meeting of the mayor and council on March 27th, 2023. Have a motion to approve the minutes. So moved. A motion by Mr. Dale, is there a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Gilbert. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes seem to have it. And the minutes are approved. Thank you. Move on now to our report from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know several others have quite a bit to report, so I'll keep my comments very brief. I'd like to thank Councilman Kabachi for joining me at a meeting last Monday where we addressed some of the concerns of residents living alongside Wakefield Valley Park, and I think that meeting went very well. And we were able to listen, address some of those concerns, and we have some ideas for moving forward that we gleaned from that evening meeting. Secondly, and my last point is I would just like to thank, first of all, I'm very happy to see Ms. Imhoff back at a council meeting. But I'd like to mention that over the last 4 weeks or so, three weeks, Mr. Depot, Chief Ledwell, Mr. Moore, you know, he's only been with us for a little bit, Mr. Brown, Mr. Dick, Mrs. Gruber, Mrs. Rogers, and Mrs. Brown. No. McCullough, sorry. Everyone really stepped forward and helped us get through these last couple of weeks. So I just want to say, once again, I know I've spoken to most of you all personally, but I just wanted to recognize it publicly at a meeting that we have a phenomenal staff at 45 West Main Street, due in part to our city administrator and her leadership there. So just want to say thank you. And that is all, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Dr. Becker. We'll move on now to reports from standing committees. We'll begin with our liaison to the Carroll County Arts Council, Mr. Dale.
Thank you, Mr. President. By all reports, the peak show was a great success, brought lots of folks into town. I heard lots of good reports about folks coming to downtown Westminster after checking out the peak show. And that's all good stuff. We have an upcoming meeting with the Carroll Arts Council this coming Wednesday. Lots of exciting programming, lots of really good movies. Check out the website for more information. That'll be my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Economic and Community Development Committee, Mr. Hoff.
No report, this meeting, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. On behalf of the Finance Committee, report that we of course are now in the heart of the budget season. Very busy working on that with the staff. We have a couple of Finance Committee meetings scheduled over the next 2 weeks. You all should plan on receiving budget documents on or close to April 21st, I think. So you'll have perhaps a week to review them. We expect to we'll be having our special meeting of the council on May 1st, the introduction of the budget. At that time, we'll also have the budget presentation by the staff and the budget hearing, the budget public hearing. We can plan also on a budget workshop on May 2nd at 4 p.m. and then adoption of the budget at the regular meeting of the mayor and council on May 8th. And I believe Mr. Barber, were we able to get the Quincy Yield advertised?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So we'll have the public hearing
On the 24th.
on the 24th. So that's a report of the Finance Committee. Looking forward to sharing details with you on the budget itself in a couple of weeks. And that's it for that. Move on to the Personnel Committee, Ms. Gilbert.
I just want to draw everybody's attention to our website regarding our city positions. We still have several positions available, mainly centering around our summer camp season and the opening of our new pool, camp directors, lifeguards, pool managers, assistant pool managers, and camp counselor positions. These are great summer job opportunities and or a great way for your college student that may be living with you to earn some extra money as a summer job opportunity. So send them on to our website and have them fill out an application. We also have deputy and entry level and lateral police officer positions open, so take a look. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Public safety, Mr. Kamachi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Got a couple of things. Lateral police officer Trevino Elliott is about halfway through his comparative compliance academy training in Cecil County. This is a community training program that certifies out-of-state lateral officers that are hired with all the Maryland specific laws and requirements. Once Officer Elliott completes this training, he'll begin his field training and evaluation program, which is good news because we need them. We also have a police recruit, Jacob Everhart. He's attending the NPCP entry-level police academy. He's about a month into it. He's doing well. He's scheduled to graduate in August. Again, we'll be happy to see him come on board. Westchester Police Department patrol officers have charged Jason Tyler Green with a series of criminal offenses ranging from theft to violation of peace order. Mr. Green, who I've heard his name quite frequently over the past few months, is currently being held on no bond status at the detention center. So that's a very good thing. The last thing is I wanted to just kind of paraphrase a letter that we received from a gentleman who his wife is suffering from Parkinson's disease, and she wanted to participate in the walk that took place. I believe that was on Good Friday. Is that right, Chief? And it was a letter commendating Lieutenant Timothy Reif. And you know, for someone to take the time to write, which was a pretty detailed and relatively long letter about how it impacted his wife and him on this walk in terms of what Lieutenant Reif did. He talked about the fact that she really wanted to participate in the event, but there was concerns, and they were immediately allayed by the kindness shown by Lieutenant Reif. He indicated that he went out of his way to make the event enjoyable for her, safe and meaningful. He, on numerous occasions, would check on them and constantly make sure that they were safe in terms of participating in this event. He would walk back and make sure that anytime he saw an area in the sidewalk that he thought the wheelchair might have trouble with, you know, he went back and made sure that she was able to navigate everything safely. And it really made just a wonderful day, it sounds like, for Mrs. Templeton and Mr. Templeton. And again, he just wanted to talk about how it was so impactful and how his work made such a exceptional impression on him and the other citizens around him, and talked about him being a role model. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. You know, we get letters like that occasionally about our police officers, but this one was real poignant, and I thought it was something worth sharing publicly with the rest of you. So thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Kamachi, for sharing that. You're welcome. Once again, thanks. All right, Public Works Committee, Mr. Kamachi.
Yes, sir. The Utilities Department continues to televise sewer mains for ongoing inflow and infiltration, which is great. We want to stay on that. That's it's a big money saver, or at least a big inflow saver for the wastewater treatment plant. They're cleaning behind the dam and pipe at Hall Creek. They responded to a 6-inch water main break on Gist Road and repaired it, and it was operational within 3 hours, which is really great. I know I was a little concerned about the hospital being affected, and clearly the guys were able to make it so it was not, which is wonderful. They removed some downed trees from the race. What is that? The race is. That's the area of the stream. Gotcha. Yeah, actually, yeah, okay. Additionally, the Utilities Department will be flushing hydrants from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. on April 10th, 11th, and 12th in the following areas. And this is good to note: Airport Industrial Parks, Bolton Hill, Meadow Creek, Clyden Reach, Selden Heights, and Eden Farms. And that's sometimes going to cause the water to get a little bit discolored, but it is safe to drink. I had to explain that to my daughter the other day when it happened at our house. She was kind of freaking out about it a little bit. Street Department tilled and prepared the community gardens, trimmed some trees at City Park, set up, executed and cleaned for the Easter egg hunt, and they rebuilt a stormwater catch basin on the gear lot. That is all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kalachi. Recreation and Parks, Mr. Dayhoff.
Brief report, by all reports, the Easter egg hunt was a huge hit. We're looking forward to having a meeting sometime soon and get a progress report on the poll, how that's coming along. And we got the Main Street Mall this Wednesday. The Main Street Mall this Wednesday, which is a big event. It's the 40th anniversary of the Main Street Mall, which is pretty much a regional event. Folks will come from all around to participate in the Main Street Mall. The wine stroll is coming up. What's the date on the wine stroll? 22nd. Wine stroll is coming up April 22nd, brings a lot of folks to town. Another great event. We really appreciate all the hard work of Abby's warriors over there. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dayhoff, and I have nothing to share tonight on behalf of the Technology Committee. Move on now to council comments and discussion. This is when council members have a chance to report on or comment on or discuss anything that is not elsewhere on the agenda. And I'm going to, take the opportunity to lead off because we've got some really good news that we want to share publicly that we're very excited about. It comes out of Annapolis. Westminster doesn't often go down to the legislature to look for things, but this year we had the opportunity or the occasion to do that on two different issues. One is we needed to get some legislation adopted that would allow the Maryland Department of the Environment to be able to move forward with the permitting process on our water reuse project. Because it's so new in Maryland anyway, although it's done elsewhere in the country and around the world very successfully, that the department didn't know if it had the authority to be able to move forward with what we needed to get done. So the legislature has now granted that authority. Both houses of the legislature have adopted the legislation, which was sponsored by our Carroll County legislative delegation. I want to thank Senator Jeff Moretti and Delegate April Rose in particular for having taken the lead on getting that done. Working with our staff, by Ms. Imholz, who did an awful lot of work to tee that up very, very quickly and get, as we only had a day or two at the beginning of the session, we realized that it was necessary. But move quickly. The mayor, Mr. Hoff, and I had the opportunity to go down to Annapolis to address the committees and testify on this issue and speak to a number of legislators from across the state. And we were able to get this done. So I'm very pleased it's passed both houses on its way to the governor's desk. And we look forward to a bill signing very shortly. That's very exciting for us to be able to move forward with that vitally important project for the city. Second thing is we also went to Annapolis and we asked if the state could give us a hand with financing the city's Westminster fiber network. Westminster was a pioneer on fiber. We launched our initiative long before any other municipalities had thought to do it. And so we are pioneers in that regard. After we got ours underway, a lot of federal money and state money became available for municipalities who wanted to start building a fiber network. The way those projects were structured, those funds were structured, we weren't able to go back and ask for help with what we'd already done. So we went to the legislature and asked, and the governor, and asked if it would be possible to help Westminster with meeting some of the costs of what Westminster had put out for this. I'm very, very pleased that the legislature responded positively, and we have $4 million coming from the legislature over the next 4 years, $1 million a year. So that's a tremendous help to us in being able to manage that project. Once again, great work by the staff in helping prepare all the work that we needed to have to be able to go down there. And then the mayor and Mr. Hoff and I once again went down there and had a lot of conversations with people. And very, very pleased that we were able to do that. Special thanks to the Senate President, who took our suggestions on helping us very kindly, as well as the chair of the Senate Budget Committee, Guy Gazzone from Howard County, and Senator Craig Zucker, the chair of the Capital Budget Subcommittee from Montgomery County, who particularly Senator Zucker's case, they've done a lot of the work to make sure that we got. So very much appreciate their understanding situation we were in Westminster Agreement in this area, and sort of the element of fairness in trying to help and the state help us out on this. So once again, two very big wins for Westminster and Minneapolis this year. We're very, very pleased that we were able to get that. That's all I had for tonight. I'll move on now to Mr. Kamachi.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. I got a few things just I wanted to touch on. One, I wanted to thank the mayor. I think she did a good job with the Wakefield Valley meeting and bringing in some of our staff, as well as some county staff, as well as the folks that were actually the organization that planted the trees. And I agree. I think we made good headway with the folks there. I think a lot of people asked me how the meeting went. And I said, I think most of them came there relatively upset at the start of the meeting. And I think the majority walked away feeling much better. Of course, there's a few that will never change their opinion, but that's not uncommon. I also wanted to briefly just echo, Mr. President, what you said, but I wanted to thank, you talked about staff and all the other folks and the other state officials, but I know you and Councilman Huff played a pretty significant role. And I know the mayor did on the first one, but on the second one with fiber, which has probably been the one thing that's kept me awake occasionally in the evening. I think you played a really significant role. You leveraged a lot of the relationships that you've built over the past 30 or so years in the state. And I know that you thanked a bunch of people a few minutes ago, but the reason those people I think did some of the things they did is because you cashed in some chips that you have earned over the years. And I think without that, we probably would not have gotten that much. So I wanted to say that I don't probably speak for everybody here how grateful I am that you were able to leverage those relationships. That's not chump change. $4 million definitely goes a long way. And I do think it's fair because they're funding all these other programs for all these other municipalities. And we're kind of a little bit getting punished because we were out early. But between you and Councilman Huff and the mayor, I just wanted to say thank you very much. You guys did a wonderful job. Lastly, I do have to touch on something, as I know you guys are aware, I'm helping our city clerk a little bit on just some back end election things since I'm not running this time around. And I think most of you are probably aware, but I want to make sure everyone is. There was some information sent out by the county, and it was related. The reason some of the information was sent out inaccurately is because there were some changes in the district lines relative to the state and county, and that ended up mucking up a little bit of the information relative to the city. And there was some, I think, notifications sent out to some residents saying that their voting location had changed, when in fact, with the city elections, that's not the case. And Doug, I want you to correct me if I say anything wrong here. It remains that if you are west of 31, you're still voting at Royer Road at the community building up by the pool. And if you're on this side of 31, you're voting at the fire hall. Nothing has changed. It's the same as it's always been. And I believe the county's going to send some information back out to those folks that got some inaccurate information to correct that. No one's not going to get the vote, even if they went to the wrong place. They would just be redirected to the correct place, which fortunately is only about a mile apart. But the county is going to fix their mistake and send out the appropriate information so that people know where to vote. And we appreciate the county for working with us. And I'm grateful for our city clerk. He's done a wonderful job. He's really on top of this and he caught it early and jumped right in as getting corrected. So Doug, thank you very much for being on top of that. That's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kamachi, and thank you for working with Mr. Barber on that and other on the commission side of the ship. Mr. Dayhoff.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to mention, Councilman Kavachi, if it's okay with you, the passing of Roland Meritor. Roland Meritor was a distinguished Maryland State Police officer for many years. And he was quite close with Councilman Kavachi and Councilman Kavachi's dad, who served on council for many years. Colonel Meritor, what was his rank?
He was a lieutenant colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel. I always call him sir. Lieutenant Colonel Meritor, served on the chief's, selection committee. When we selected a chief in 2003, and he was extremely helpful. It was a very difficult time. And, his advice was, extremely helpful, throughout that entire process. He passed away on March the 20th, and several of us participated in a service for Lieutenant Colonel Meritor on March the 31st. Want to echo the remarks of, well, I also appreciate that Councilman Kavachi made mention of the recent county notification. I got quite a few questions about that. So if we can, yeah, I really appreciate you mentioning that. Also, I can't thank Council President Pecoraro and the Mayor Becker and Council Member Huff for all their hard work down at the Maryland General Assembly. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of long days, and it's always on a very, very short notice. Always on a very short notice, and they did a wonderful job by all reports for that. I participated in the egg hunt that was put on by Find Your Purpose Philly Live and London Pettis. They filled the Westminster Playground it was a pretty awesome Easter egg hunt that was on Saturday, April the 8th. I also participated in the on April 1st, the Reef Fire Company celebrated its 75th anniversary. And I participated in that banquet that was held on April the 1st. And I really appreciated the March 29th, the Carroll County Veterans Independence Project held an event for National Vietnam War Veterans Day. I really super appreciate that event. I guess we didn't get treated really well after the war. I think ceremonies like that go a long ways as far as helping that out a little bit. Congratulations to Billy Schroeder on his retirement from Gulianova. And this is the third owner. It's just recently been sold. This is the third owner. Tony DeGenio started it. He started it back in 1986. 1986, Billy Schroeder purchased it in 2003, and now it's been sold. And the folks that have purchased it have vowed to continue to all the traditions of Gulianova, and that brings a lot of folks downtown. Happy that the Westminster Clock Tower is underway. It's really important that we preserve and maintain that clock. It was built in 1896. And then I really appreciate that we planted 22 acres of trees at Wakefield Park. I really appreciate that. I was kind of curious if during your community meeting, you should have reread the proclamation for Arbor Day. It's really important that we do something about reforestation. I did participate in developing the forest conservation ordinance for the state and the county years ago, and it's really important that we continue to plant trees. And then finally, on May 1st, McDaniel College is hosting a day-long academic symposium, which will showcase in the morning a conversation with Carroll County leaders, which will feature the city administrator, Sarah Imhoff, and our mayor, Mona Becker, and we're really proud of that. That's a regional event, and we really appreciate your participation in that on top of all of the other duties. And that'll finish it up for me, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huff. How many eggs did you have?
Oh, I didn't pick up any, but I almost got run over.
I was afraid you were knocking down some kids.
There were an awful lot of folks there.
There was a video of him dancing.
We'll have to-
Well, there is a video, there's
Yeah.
a video.
It may have been not, it may be not safe.
I was out
I mean,
there.
he's surrounded by children.
I might just have to look that up.
Petey Grooms. Petey Grooms, a very good friend of mine, a fellow Vietnam vet, dragged me out when he was dancing, and you can't say no to the Petey Grooms. We also gave away 500 pounds of food. With my wife, Caroline Babylon, for Carroll County Food Sunday. That was an awesome event. I did not get hurt, but it was touch and go there for a while.
We'll look forward to the video. Ms. Gilbert. Hop back again.
I don't know that I can, I think I'm almost speechless.
Did you dance on video within the last week?
No, not at all. No, I tried to
Hard to
dance a
beat.
little bit on our city A hunt, but it was a little cold and wet, so the only reason I was dancing was to keep warm, I think.
Base red.
No, not at all. Everybody pretty much did all the thank yous to my colleagues here on the council, the delegates and city staff. For all the work that they did in Annapolis. It's a lot of work, not only just taking time to go down there and spending time there and talking to everybody, but also on the backside of all the phone calls, all the paperwork, everything, just to get all that legislation. So I just wanted to thank everyone who took their time. I know I went down a couple times with Councilman Huff, and it's just a lot to take that work. So I want to just thank everybody for that. Also, wanted to say thank you to Tony and the mayor on taking point on the Wakefield meeting and dealing with the trees. I'll leave that at that. And I wanted to make everyone aware of the ribbon cutting that's happening on Monday for Duckytown, in collaboration with Magic. And the wine stroll is the 22nd, so just be aware of that. I believe that was already mentioned, and I'm going to make my report very short and end it there.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Hahn.
Yes, Mr. President. The only thing I will add is just, we've talked about the water reuse and the fiber, but just how much, like, I appreciate the fact of our collaboration as a group. We are a nonpartisan group. But, you know, in Annapolis, you know, it is a partisan environment. There are Democrats, Republicans, and I have to say that, you know, between the leadership down there in Annapolis on the Democratic side and our local delegation who are Republicans, it was a very collaborative effort among all of us. And not get on a soapbox, but I kind of think that's more of what we need in this world is people working together for the best interests of our community. And it is such a pleasure for me to be working among a group that is like that, working for the best interests of our community and then working with our local delegation. They had our backs when it came to these requests and worked really hard behind the scenes for us as well. So I just want to say, in the environment that we so often hear people complain about, how refreshing it is to be in an environment like we are right now, among this group and our friends locally in the delegation. So that's it, Council President.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Hahn. All right, we'll move on now to the next order of business, which is ordinances and resolutions. We have 3 items for us tonight. First is the adoption of ordinance number 2023-02, an ordinance of the mayor and common council accepting a quitclaim deed for an unimproved section of Sycamore Street located between East Green Street and Winchester Avenue in the city of Westminster. Mr. Depot.
Thank you. On March 27th, 2023, the Mayor and Common Council introduced ordinance 2023. If the Mayor and Common Council adopt the ordinance, we will be back before the Mayor and Common Council for a license agreement granting the non-exclusive license over and across that portion of Sycamore Street right of way to provide a driveway to a vacant parcel for a single family house as well as utilities. And with that, staff recommends that the Mayor and Common Council adopt ordinance number 2023-2 as provided in attachment 1 of this report, accepting a quitclaim deed to an unimproved portion of Sycamore located between East Green Street and Westminster Avenue in the city of Westminster. And that completes my report. I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you. So have a motion for adoption So I make a motion?
I'll move, Mr. President.
A motion by Mr. Kavachi and a second by Mr. Dayhoff. Right, is there any discussion or questions for Mr. Depot? I think we had this pretty thoroughly explained when we had this introduction.
Mr. President.
Mr. Dayhoff.
But we do understand that eventually they're going to connect Sycamore Street. That's what we want to do. When it was for Del Venetian in the 1800s, that's what wanted to be accomplished. This person's just going to build a driveway there, but later on, we're going to get it connected through.
And that is the case. This is just for the driveway. The quitclaim deed is the first step that gives us that right. So in the future, if we ever want to make that connection, which we do, we have that ability.
No further questions, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Thank you, Mr. Depot. Anyone else? Mr. Depot? All right, hearing nothing else, move on to a vote. All those in favor of adoption of ordinance number 2023-02, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes being to have the ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. The next two items are resolutions, and they're sort of a piece together. They're both connected to the same item. And let me just say, it's a brief prefatory remarks here that we're very pleased this is finally coming to us. I know that it took a lot of work to get here. I want to thank Kelly Schaefer and her firm for having done pro bono work to help make this possible. I want to thank the folks who have done such a wonderful job of cleaning up and caring for the cemetery over the last several years in doing that. Really critically important part of our community history, and I'm glad that it's finally getting the attention it needs. The first item is going to be for to waive the application fees, and then the second item will be on the introduction of the actual annexation petition. So we go with adoption of resolution number 23-05, a resolution of the mayor and common council of the city of Westminster authorizing the common council to waive the application fees for an annexation petition for applicants that are nonprofit entities and demonstrate substantial hardship.
Thank you. Recently, the Community Foundation of Carroll County, Inc., the petitioner submitted a petition to the mayor and common council of the city of Westminster to annex 1.1812 acres of land commonly known as Ellsworth Cemetery. The city established a filing fee of $2,500 for annexation petitions and a requirement that the applicant pay legal costs by resolution number 2004, approving the general fee schedule for governmental and proprietary functions of the city. The petitioner has requested that these fees and costs be waived due to the nonprofit status of the petitioner. The city code and the general fee schedule do not authorize the common council to waive the application fees for an annexation petition. The attached resolution of the mayor and common council authorizes the common council to waive the application fee for annexation petition for applicants like the petitioner that are nonprofit entities and demonstrate substantial hardship. So with that, staff recommends that the mayor and common council adopt resolution 2302, authorizing the common council to waive the application fees for an annexation petition for applicants that are nonprofit entities and demonstrate substantial hardship. And that completes my report and available for any questions.
So thank you, Steve. Let's get a motion on adoption of the resolution. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution.
That's the motion to adopt the resolution 23-05. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion by Ms. Gilbert and a second by Mr. Hawk. Any discussion or any questions? Mr. Hawk?
Mr. President.
Sorry, Mayor.
I want to say, this seems like a little bit of a no-brainer to me for nonprofits, entities within the city, or not within the city yet, but requesting an annexation into the city. Since I was unaware that we were unable to waive the annexation fee, I think that this was a perfect sort of resolution to that, and I'm glad that this is being finalized in here. So I appreciate this coming up before the mayor and the council.
Thank you. Nice when you can authorize yourself to do something. Right?
I need to disclose, in full disclosure, that my wife serves on the board of the Carroll County, the Community Foundation of Carroll County, and that I've been happy for 20 years to annex this property. you think it's okay? Should I vote? I
I
mean,
think it's fine.
and there's no financial gain, there's only cost. Okay.
You're fine.
Because this isn't specific to that situation anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, but it does involve waiving fees.
You're fine.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Levan gave you the reminder.
And I'm tough, so.
President.
Mr. Glavine.
So let me get this out of the way first. I have every intention of voting for 2306 with the actual annexation. But I have some reservations about this particular resolution. Pretty broad. And I understand, Madam Mayor, how much I love you and won't look at
I love you too.
but I don't agree that just any nonprofit fees should be waived for. And I know it doesn't say any nonprofits, but you know, there's a pretty broad gamut in terms of financial resources from one nonprofit to the other. There are nonprofits relatively close to the city, for example, the hospital, that probably could swing a $2,500 fee, because let's keep in mind, we're not assessing this fee willy-nilly. It isn't just saying, hey, we're charging $2,500 for nothing. There's a lot of work that goes into these annexations. I can't even begin to imagine the dozens, if not hundreds of hours that staff puts into, these annexations and the work that goes into it on our city attorney's part, which he gives us a very good deal, but it's still a lot of money.
Thank you.
And I'm reticent to just waive these fees based upon, I think the language says nonprofit that demonstrates a need or something like that. Yeah, what does that mean? You know, what's the definition of that? Who's the arbiter? Who's going to decide what that financial hardship is? What's the threshold? I'm I don't want to muck everything up on the next one, because I really want to get the next one done. Because I think it's really important. I'm really in favor of it, but I'm concerned about this one. There's lots of unintended consequences when we go and make ordinance and change things like this. And I'm just worried down the road that all of a sudden people are going to annex and they form themselves a nice little nonprofit and say, well, we want to come in, but we need your water. So, but we're going to form a nonprofit because we need the water, so we don't have to pay that fee. I know it's not a lot of money, but I just wanted to express my concerns about it. And I probably can't vote for it based upon the way the language is currently written. Again, I have every intention of voting for the next one after this. So there's two, in my opinion, are not totally related, even though I know why we're doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Concha. So I would just note that the language does say they would have to submit a waiver request in writing accompanied by such documentation as the mayor may from time to time establish that the entity is a nonprofit organization that he would constitute a substantial hardship that would impair the ability of the entity to pursue its core mission. So, I think just to your example, certainly as you noted, the hospital is not a lot of resources, particularly now that it is part of a for-profit entity.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
And,
Nonprofit.
but even that being the case, it's they've still got substantial resources, and it would not appear $2,500 not impair their ability to do their core mission. I think that while it may not be as narrowly targeted as as might make you comfortable, I think that making this case, it becomes a judgment call for the mayor and council. And future mayors and councils perhaps would have to make that judgment call after this. Anyone,
Council President, I want to make sure I'm understanding. This is authorizing us to a waiver.
is authorizing us to give a waiver.
To give a waiver, to give a waiver, but what my point is,
Is not authorizing any specific waiver.
correct, someone has to come to us to ask for the waiver.
Yes.
Who, I want to make sure, and this might be a question for legal counsel, as it's currently written, who has the authority to grant that waiver? Because to me, it says by such document as the mayor may from time to time establish, doesn't say the mayor is the one making that determination of authorizing the waiver. So from legal counsel, how is this going to work technically when a waiver request comes in? Who is the party voting for the waiver?
So in my view, it would be most appropriate for the mayor and council for the legislative body to make that decision. And so if you wanted to amend the resolution just to insert the words may apply for a waiver from the mayor and common council in the resolution paragraph, that might address your very valid point.
So what my point went to be, and I love the mayor as well, is that I do believe Councilman Kavachi has a point that I'm fine us authorizing the language, but I would like any waiver to come back to the council that we can grant it to make that determination when we're granting it specifically. So if we could amend that language, I would be comfortable with voting for it as well.
So is everybody comfortable with an amendment that would say by submitting a waiver request in writing to the mayor and common council? Is that what you meant, Ms. Levan? Or where's the-
Yes.
Right, to the mayor and common council.
Where is, can you?
In the
So on the-
first resolved clause,
In the first resolve clause, okay. Okay,
Yes,
thank
Mr.
you.
President.
at the end of the third line, we would add those words. So without objection, so would you like to make the motion to
Yeah, I'll make the motion to make that change to the ordinance.
second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Moved and seconded by Mr. Kavachi. Any further discussion on the amendment? Which was just insert the mayor and council into the approval. Clarify our role in the approval. Right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes see that. Resolution is amended. Now we're back to consideration of the resolution itself. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we want to vote. All those in favor of the resolution as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes see that. And the resolution is adopted as amended. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Move on now to introduction and adoption of resolution number 23-06. Ellsworth Cemetery annexation 36, enlarging the corporate boundaries of the city of Westminster by annexing into the city certain property containing 1.1812 acres contiguous to adjoining the city's existing corporate boundaries. Existing land located on the north side of Leidy Road, commonly known as Ellsworth Cemetery, often identified as tax account number 07-004-788 map 46 grid 0016, also 1592. The street note.
Thank you. And again, this will sound familiar, but with that, the Community Foundation of Carroll County Inc. petitioners pursuant to the annotated Code of Maryland Local Government Article Title 4, Subtitle 4, has petitioned the Mayor and Common Council of the City of Westminster to annex 1.1812 acres of land located on the north side of Leidy Road, commonly known as Ellsworth Cemetery, owned by the petitioner, into the corporate boundaries of the city. This annexation area is zoned R10,000 Residence District under the Carroll County zoning ordinance. The petitioner is requesting that the property be zoned C Conservation Zone under the city zoning ordinance. The annexation petition submitted by the petitioner meets the requirements in the annotated Code of Maryland Local Government Article Division 2, Title 4, Subtitle 4 of the zoning ordinance section and zoning ordinance section 164(6). The property is contiguous to and adjoining the existing boundaries of the city. This annexation of the property will not create an isolated area or enclave of the unincorporated land of the city's boundaries. Representatives for the application have submitted the letter requesting the annexation filing fee of $2,500 be waived due to the nonprofit status of the petitioner. The letter explains that there is no new plan development in association with this proposed annexation, and any allocation of funds for financial account for this annexation process, if possible, would take funds away from the maintenance and improvements of the cemetery. Following introduction of the annexation petition, a resolution to the Mayor and Common Council. The resolution will be forwarded to Carroll County and Maryland Department of Planning for its information and comments, and to the city's Planning Commission for its recommendation. With that, staff recommends that the mayor and common council introduce resolution 2306 for annexation, allowing the annexation process to begin. That completes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Depot. So we've got two things to do here, right? We've got, is the waiver request before us at the moment?
The actual waiver language is actually in the resolution. So the resolution outlines the request being made by the petitioner as well as the mayor and common council waiving the, and in preparation and anticipation of that comment, it actually does say the mayor and common council.
Somebody was taking it.
Now, this is just for introduction. Though, right?
This is just for introduction, yeah.
So we're just gonna hold that the issue with names. The resolution is brought back, comes back to us, it's adopted.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion for adoption of the resolution, for introduction of the resolution.
I'll move, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion by Mr. Kavachi to introduce the resolution, and second by Ms. Gilbert. Is there any further discussion or any questions for Mr. Depot?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dale?
I need to make the same disclosure. My wife serves on the board. My wife Caroline Babylon serves on the board. The Community Foundation of Carroll County.
If we remember that.
Yes, sir. But I still need it on the record. Yes, sir, I do. Thank
All
you.
right, anyone else wish to be heard? Right, well, let's not delay this any further then. Get it moving. All right,
Thank you.
all those in favor of the introduction, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it. And the resolution is introduced and staff will begin its work with the county and we look forward to what that's it.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Commissioner, thank you for being here for this. Thank you for your role in this.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And also CLSI, Marshall Green, has been doing all of the annexation plan work.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. With that, I'm gonna go put my kids to bed. Head out.
It's not the first good work.
Thank you.
He can say. You know what else is happening?
You know what to say.
You guys have.
In the natural morning. All right, that's it for ordinances and resolutions. The next item is unfinished business. There is no unfinished business of which I'm aware. Does anybody have any unfinished business to bring forward to council? Hearing none, move on to the next section. New business. We have one item under new business. Approval to waive the competitive bidding for a good cause on the new subsection 36-4F to pave the Wakefield Valley Trail and Hobbit's Pond. For that, we'll turn to Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. President. City of Westminster Mayor and Common Council awarded the contract to reconstruct and lay 150 feet of storm drain piping in Hobbit Storm Pond. Together construction on Monday, January 29th, 2022. We agreed to supply any required fill dirt for this project, with the understanding there would be some damage to the trail transporting material to the pond. Unfortunately, the damage was more than we anticipated and will require the trail to be completely resurfaced. We reached out to two local paving companies for pricing. Those two prices are below. Because this project be approved under the good cause waiver to skip the bidding process and save time due to the unsafe trail conditions to the public and our obligation to meet the standards. First bid, the first quote was from TJ Miller for $142,393. The second was from MT Laney for $142,500. We would like to go with CJ Miller quote based on it being the lowest cost, their availability, and past experience. As noted above, the proposed purchase has an associated cost of $142,393. We propose using $75,000 for the street department grade maintenance and repair operating account. The remaining $14,000 from the Hobbit's Pond reconstruction project, $53,393 for the annual road paving CFP. Staff recommends that the mayor and common council waive competitive bidding for bid cause under new subsection 36-4. Paving of the Wakefield Valley Trail at Hobbit's Pond and award a contract to CJ Miller in the amount of $142,500. $393.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. Let's go to motion. We have a motion to approve waiving the competitive bidding for a good cause.
Motion to approve.
The motion by Mr. Dale, is there a second?
Second.
The second by Ms. Gilbert. Thank you. All right. Any questions for Mr. Dick or any discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Hoff?
I just want to make sure, just for clarity's sake, this is the portion of the trail that goes between Uniontown Road and Windsor Drive, is that
That
correct?
is correct.
Okay. And it was damaged during. Can you explain that a little bit better for me?
Yeah, so as we hauled in all the fill dirt to fill in where we extended the pipe. It destroyed the trail. We came in off of Windsor. And it just literally crumbled. It was a developer grade trail, let's say, that was put in 22 years ago. Looking at it, I'd say it was about 1.5 inches thick.
That's, I wanted some additional clarity there. So
Right.
the trail, the asphalt that was there, I'm assuming it was asphalt
Yes.
before, was older,
Yes,
correct? And you're saying that it was originally put in by the developer, wasn't very thick, so it wasn't in pristine condition anyway.
No,
Is what
no.
your point
it was
is.
starting to show signs.
It was starting to show signs, and this was enough to put it over the edge.
Really, over the edge.
Okay, because I haven't personally seen it. I've heard about it,
Right.
but I haven't seen it. So I just wanted to, so it's the portion between Uniontown and Windsor Drive. But it's not like a perfectly new trail that got destroyed during the construction project. This was an older trail.
Correct.
And probably would have had to be replaced anyway. This was just enough to push it over the edge. So we're here today. Thank you for the clarity.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hoff, any further questions or any other discussion on this?
Mr. President,
Mr. Kalash?
just briefly, I know we're not putting it out to a full competitive bid, but I do appreciate the fact you went out and got a couple of quotes. So you were confident, and it's amazing, they're $107 apartments.
Yeah.
And so that shows that, I mean, look, it's a relatively small job for these guys, and these are the guys we use all the time anyway. They were, if you put it out to 50, the 50 people bid on it, I'll bet you we would have came in lowest anyway. So I think it makes sense to do this and just get it done.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kalash. Anyone else? Mr. Dale?
Mr. President. Yeah, this is the oldest section, and the way I have characterized it is that we've learned a lot about construction of trails since it was initially installed. I hope that if it's okay with everyone, that we make sure that we put some signage up. This is not just simply a recreational trail. This is a major thoroughfare. I walk it all the time, and it is used by a lot of people. So perhaps we could make sure there's some good signage on Windsor Drive and on Uniontown Road side to make sure that folks know that it's going to be under reconstruction. I'm really happy that we've turned this around as quickly as we have because it is a major thoroughfare. So, hats off to everybody involved to get this accomplished. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. All right. Anyone else? Hearing nothing, we will move on to vote. All those in favor of approving the waiver, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Yeah, I see we have it, the ayes have it. And approval is good. We will manage the process for us. Thank you. All right. That does it for the new business. Next item is departmental reports. Please let Ms. Zimhoff with us, even though she's still voiceless. So we will go back to Mr. Depot to read it through departmental reports.
Thank you. Let's go on the other side and Director Abby Gruber with Rexham Park.
Good evening. I actually do not have a report this evening because Councilman Dayhoff and Councilwoman Gilbert did such a good job at announcing what we have coming up this month. So thank you. That ends my report for this evening.
Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Gruber? No? Let's move on to John Dick.
Thank you, Mr. Depot. We talked about all the big projects that are going on in Public Works right now. The clock tower, the full scaffolding is in place now, and they have started to tear things apart there. So it's well underway, it's on schedule. Really pleased with the contractor involved. He's there every day, makes a site visit, sometimes twice a day. So, everything's running really smooth there.
It's online, it's good.
So they're still shooting, I think it is the third week in August. Will be completed.
Very good.
There's no
Other
other,
than that, the mulching and mowing season has started. So that's what the street department will be doing for the next 6 months.
any other,
That's all I have.
any other questions for Mr. Dick? Seeing any, let's move on to Eric Brown, the Director of Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Depot. There's two things I wanted to bring to the mayor council's attention. The first of which is we're real pleased with the progress we're making in terms of moving people off of our waiting list. And in the past month, we've been able to issue vouchers to 8 families who also found places to live within that span of time. So we're real pleased with that. The second thing is we are beginning to feel the spring in the air in terms of the number of complaints we're beginning to get from people about grass, weeds, and so forth. So I expect that volume to grow as it gets warmer. And we're going to do our best to be on top of that and respond as quickly and efficiently as we can, and hopefully, keep down the volumes of call that you have to receive. That's my report, Mr. Depot.
Thank you. So anybody have any questions of Mr. Brown?
I go home and cut my grass tonight.
Online and have to complain right now.
Let's move on to Richard Moore, the Director of IT.
And technology has no reports done. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Moore? Not seeing any. Chief Ledwell, Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The only thing I have to add to what Councilman Kovaci talked about is that our overdose quick response team case manager, Brooke Sisson, is currently attending the RX Summit, which is an annual collaborative summit where all the community stakeholders who are focused on drug prevention, treatment, and recovery get together to discuss the latest and greatest strategies to reduce drug overdoses and deaths. It's attended by a multidisciplinary team of individuals, so she's there for 3 days. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions, for Chief Ledwell? Thank you. For planning, on April 4th, the Board of Zoning Appeals held its elections, and Larry Brandt was elected the chair, and Scott Graff was elected vice chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Board of Zoning Appeals also discussed the general procedures, scheduling, and staff reports for the BZA. There was a lot of good discussion as to how we might improve upon those, as well as some legal issues and procedures for the BZA as well. And that includes possibly updating some of the rules of procedures for the Board of Zoning Appeals. On April 5th, the Historic District Commission discussed the nation's 250th anniversary. Again, reviewed architecture for 71 and 73 West Main Street. Again, that's the old Furnace Coffee. They're still moving forward with their plans for that development. The Maryland Historic Trust Capital Grant Program. This is pointed out by City Administrator M. Haas for potential funding for future inventory update of the historic buildings of Westminster. And also discussed their involvement in the Flower and Jazz Festival sign up. Festival, I'm sorry. And that completes my report. Do you have any questions?
I think this, I think the mayor had a question.
Yeah, it's for Mrs. Krueger. If I could just ask that real quick. So at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the iNaturalist. That kicks off on the 22nd, correct?
I
On
actually.
Earth Day, and we won't meet, I think, before then.
So it actually, thank you for reminding me that I did not mention that. So we are hosting an event at Wakefield on April 28th.
Oh, April 28th.
From
okay.
3:30 to 6:30. We're inviting everyone to join us to get wild at Wakefield. We're having a beautiful bugs program from 4 to 5. We'll have an information tent set up where people can go and learn about the app, how to download it, how to use it while they're on site. We're encouraging them to make as many observations as they can. We'll also have friends of Hashua and Bear Branch there leading nature walks, guided walks throughout the site. So lots going on. We've put some prizes out there for those that make certain tiers of observations. They're eligible to be entered into a drawing for different types of prizes, depending on how many observations they make. We're giving away things like punch passes to the pool, a free week of summer camp, and different things that may be of interest to families and individuals who are looking for summer entertainment. So we're definitely happy to be putting that out there. The flyers are out and we've started advertising on social media. And so that does, April 28th kicks off the iNaturalist observation period, and it runs through May 1st. So we encourage everybody to come out, learn about the app, make some observations at Wakefield on the 28th, then they can continue to make observations on the 28th, 29th, 30th, and 1st of May.
Thank you. I use iNaturalist in my AP environmental class and in my terrestrial environmental science class. And so some reason today I was thinking of, I was using it in North Carolina and I was thinking that we have that coming up.
Sounds like a great extra credit opportunity for your students, Mary Becker.
Exactly. All right, thank you, thank you.
Mr. President.
I had to caution the mayor, she can't compete, she's not eligible to hit. Which she made a very different point.
You don't compete. It's a, you can't win a prize today.
May we be provided with that flyer, please? Can we have that emailed to us? Because I'm getting a lot of questions. Because I again want to repeat that Wakefield Valley is starting to get a lot of attention from bird watchers. If I have that flyer, because I have gotten some questions about it, and if I can get that flyer to sing from the same sheet, that would be great. I'm really looking forward to the event.
Thanks, Mr. Al. Anyone else? Any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Last but not least, Councilmember Dayhoff for the fire department.
I don't have statistics this evening, but what it is that I do want to say for the record and for the folks that are viewing the video of this, that there has been some frustration about the hiring process with the new Carroll County Department of Fire and EMS. And the city of Westminster, a number of folks have expressed frustration. A number of folks have been in touch with me about it, but there's nothing really that the city of Westminster can do. I've been in touch with the new fire chief for Carroll County about the process. He's been very receptive to discussions about the challenges. Starting a new combination department is very difficult. I've been involved in it in the periphery with Frederick County. It's very difficult, it's very complicated, and I think that the fire chief has been very receptive to fine tuning some of the testing programs and things like that, but emailing myself or other members of the council, there's nothing we can really do as far as helping out. I mean, the Carroll County Fire Department and EMS, they don't get involved in city business, and we should probably not get involved in the fire department. They don't roll around in our pond, and we don't roll around in theirs. And they should, folks that have questions about the hiring process and the complexity and the complications should be in touch with the Carroll County Fire Department. I've had some disagreements with the fire chief about the hiring process, and he's very receptive to talking about it. So I wanted to make sure that word got out. Thank you, Mr. Depot. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
That's it for departmental reports.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. All right, the final item on our agenda is citizen comments, where we invite the public to address the mayor and council on any issues pertaining to tonight's agenda or any other city issue. For citizens not attending a public meeting, watching us virtually perhaps, we invite you to send us your comments or concerns via email at comments@westminstermd.gov. All comments received by email will be shared with the mayor and council. Commenters should include their address and phone number with their comments. We'll now invite comments from anyone who is present this evening. If anyone is like to be heard, we ask them to please let us know and give us your name and address for the record. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Yes, Dick Krebs. I live at 8 Ridge Road in Westminster. Been there for about 45 years. Spent my adult life as a resident of Westminster. I'm here to talk about walking. It's been close to 10 years ago now. My daughter and I went to NIH to an excellent program on dementia. At that time, it was clear that the only thing that was consistently positive about attacking this dreaded problem was literally walking. The medications that were being prescribed were not much better than placebos. There have been some developments over the last decade, but walking and other exercise continues to be one of the best ways to prevent or at least ameliorate the dementias that can go with old age. My wife died 4 years ago with dementia. We walked a lot while she was still capable of walking. I continue to walk. I don't like to just walk though. I like to accomplish something in addition to keeping my brain active. And so I walk to the bank, I walk to the library, I walk to the grocery store. Some years ago, I discovered Aldi's and found out that I could get quality groceries there at a lower price than my walk to Safeway. And so I tend to head toward 140 from my house on Ridge Road. As I'm sure most, if not all of you know, for the last year now, there's been construction at Angler Road and 140, which provided me with an obstacle getting to Aldi's. It meant either going an extra quarter of a mile or walking very close to the 140 highway. I'm very pleased to note that over the last week, a sidewalk is in the process of being placed there. I don't know if the council had anything to do with that. If you did, thank you. I'm not sure where the town line is, whether Westminster goes to the other side of 140. It does. I hope that you had some impact on having them put in a walkway. My children and grandchildren will be relieved that their old pop is walking on a sidewalk rather than on the edge of the highway as he goes a couple times a week to Aldi's. I would like though to call to your attention that there is a stretch for me and for other people along Angler Road on this side of 140 where there is no sidewalk. And either you walk in the road or on a parking lot or on the grass, and depending on the weather and the amount of traffic, that can be a bit of a challenge. At 83, I still get around pretty well, but I don't like to dodge cars. And I would hope that you might follow through on something that I have started, namely what used to be Bauman's, where I have for 50 years now bought my seeds in the spring for planting. It's now going to be called Sweet Bay Farms. I have sent a message to the new owner asking him to consider putting in a sidewalk along his section of that road along Engler Road. The other section that is more complicated, at least for me personally, is the Westminster Shopping Center. I think that as an individual citizen, contacting them and asking them to put in a sidewalk would not get much of a response. And so I'm asking you as a council to consider being in touch with them and asking them to put in a sidewalk that would be all the way from downtown Westminster across 140. As I walk that route a couple times a week, I notice that I'm not the only person walking it. Sometimes they're young families, sometimes they're people with carts. They're not only people going to Aldi's, they're people going to Goodwill, to the shopping centers on both sides of Engler Road. And so if we had a safe place to walk, it would be appreciated. I will continue to walk it, even if I don't get the response that I'm hoping for. But my children would appreciate it, and my grandchildren would appreciate it even more. That their old pop, when he starts out with his shopping bag, comes back safely. So, thank you all.
Thank you. I'll just note that the good part of that area on Engler Road is not in the city. You know, resident city lines are kind of unusual.
Okay.
On the area, and so part of that is not in the city, but nonetheless, there's certainly something we can look into to have a conversation. You know, that is top of the county, is private property, and they don't have any control over that.
Okay, I was not aware of that, obviously.
Very strange lines, I guess. Previous mayors and councils did not always make the wisest decisions about annexation opportunities. But thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing your absolutely right about walking, and I'm certainly sorry for the loss. I'm glad to see you out there. Anyone else wish to be here tonight? All right. In that case, that concludes our agenda and the meeting. Our next regular meeting, please note, will be held on Monday, April 24th, but we will be early that day at 4 p.m. So that members of the council can attend a special event that evening. And without objection, we are adjourned. We agree. And I, where is it's great. I've always wanted this.